coming to you today from Trinity, Florida. And my guest today is...
I was down, but now I'm up.
Dr. Michael Pikos.
The founder of the Pikos Institute,
Dr. Picos.
Dr. Michael Pikos.
Dr. Michael Pikos.
Okay, so I've trained 7,000 folks directly, but how about all the patients through them that got impacted because of what I was able to share with those clinicians?
When you think about how you want to be remembered,
And this might surprise you. What I've accomplished professionally speaking is kind of cool, and I look back on it with a great sense of pride. I do. You know, when all is said and done, my true legacy is my family. You know, those are the people that really will be front row at the funeral.
I was down, but now I'm up. Yeah. It's all God.
all right, welcome to the EG Dominates podcast, coming to you today from Trinity, Florida. And my guest today is none other than Dr. Michael Pikos from the Pikos Institute. And first of all, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you on, to share some stories about who you are as a person. I met you a couple of weeks ago up here at a course, and it was interesting. I'm sitting back here, I think it was the second day, and I'm sitting in the back of the room, and I've known of you, I've heard of you for a long time. I've been in dentistry for about 12 years. But having the chance to finally meet you and to be here helping out at a course was really a great experience. But I'm sitting back here and I'm thinking to myself, like, I wonder if I Googled Dr. Pikos, or if I put in like ChatGPT, like I wonder what would come up. So have you ever Googled yourself or ChatGPT? No?
No.
Okay, so
No.
I did it. I took the luxury of doing this for us because I wanted to tell you, when you put it into ChatGPT, who is Dr. Michael Pikos, this is what comes up. First of all, there's a picture, okay, picture that comes up. And it says on here, it says, here's a quick high signal profile of Dr. Michael Pikos, who he is: world-renowned oral and maxillofacial surgeon focused on implant surgery, founder and CEO of Coastal Jaw Surgery, established in 1983, and Pikos Institute in Trinity/Tampa Bay, Florida. And it also says that he's known for full arch implant reconstruction, advanced bone and soft tissue grafting, sinus grafting. It goes on. And I'm like, man, okay, so I keep going down. Like, the bio is like, it's heavy, it's good. You're an author, you have published books, goes in and talks about sales training, talks about your education, BS biology and GDS from The Ohio State University, and residency at the University of Pittsburgh. I mean, we're going on and on. I get to a part here where it says, okay, I've heard of Dr. Pikos. I've known him for a long time, like through hearing about you, seeing videos of you, but how much impact has he had on doctors in the United States? Here's a statistic. It says 6,500 to 6,800 alumni from all 50 states and 60 plus countries. Like, that's incredible. 30,000 plus implants placed and thousands of grafting procedures done. And I'm like, man, this guy's incredible. But this is the Dr. Pikos that everyone knows. This is the Dr. Pikos that when you Google or you go to ChatGPT, this is the Dr. Pikos that everyone sees. Then it got me thinking, well, what if I was able to have Dr. Pikos on my show, where the premise of the podcast is to give doctors a platform where they can talk about who they are as a person, what's important to them, who and what has helped to shape their progression in their lifetime of who they become as a person and what's important to them. And the last thing I thought was, well, man, I gotta have this guy on my show, but what would it be like if I was like his neighbor? If I lived across the street from Dr. Pikos, first of all, like, would I even know about who you are as a doctor? Because I see who you are as a person, as a family man. But like, what would it be like to be your neighbor? And I'm like, well, what would it be like to be his son or his brother? let's have this guy on the show, and let's have him talk about, everything that's non-dental related. So that's our intro. That's our segue to the EG Dominates podcast, coming to you live from Trinity, Florida, with Dr. Picos. And Picos, I'll have you just take it to the top. Take it to the very beginning. Where did it all start for you?
Wow. Well, for starters, I'm overwhelmed by your introductory comments. I wasn't really prepared to to hear this. Quite honestly, I'm very honored to be a guest on your show, and really like the idea of telling more or less a story about myself on a personal level versus professionally speaking, because I think most folks know about me in terms of accomplishments and what I'm about as a clinician and as an educator. It's been a real fun journey over these years now. Since 1983, my private practice, it's 42 years and counting, and the Institute is now 35 years.
Wow.
Since 1990. And a little bit different, little edit on the stats. It's just over 7,000 now alumni.
Okay.
All 50 states and 67 countries. That has been very flattering for me, to be quite honest.
Remarkable.
I have just been very blessed to have more or less been able to be in a dual role as a clinician and educator in particular, and interface with such amazing people from literally all over the globe. It's been a fun journey, and it has been a journey. I've enjoyed it, and it's definitely taken a lot of inertia, a lot of effort, a lot of sacrifice. But most importantly, on a personal level, I think I can pretty much give so much credit, tons of credit really, to my upbringing, how I was raised, more or less. Being an ethnic background, a Greek ancestry, the first 10 years of my life, literally, I was involved with, as part of one of 3 generations in one household. So from birth to age 10, we lived in one house, and that was in Campbell, Ohio. That's a little kind of a suburb, if you will, of Youngstown, northeastern Ohio, steel mill area.
Okay.
And at that time, the steel mills were very vibrant, and that was the entire economy of that area. So northeastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania, big steel mill center for sure.
Blue collar, small town.
Absolutely. A lot of pollution, the whole 9 yards, We didn't think of it that way then. But really, having 3 generations in one household, in other words, my maternal grandparents, my parents, my 2 sisters, and an uncle and I, 8 of us in one house for 10 years. And whenever I do get back to Campbell, which actually was just last weekend,
Wow.
For visiting a cousin of mine who has an illness, I wanted to see her, and I was able to visit. And each time I get to the city, I take a drive past the house that I was in for 10 years and just marvel at the fact that it's so small.
So the house you grew up in is still there.
Still
and
there.
This is something that
Still there.
Wow. Is it
Yep.
in the family still?
On the
or?
No, it's been, I think, bought a couple times over now. Corner of Whipple Avenue and 12th Street, or 13th Street rather, and I just marvel again at how small it is, and the fact that 8 of us were there for 10 years.
Yeah.
Never seemed small growing up, certainly. And then my dad, who's a carpenter and a welder, he built the house for us just a few blocks away. So from age 10 roughly through high school, we lived 3.5 blocks literally from the house I grew up in.
Wow.
But what impacted me so much as a youngster was just being able to see firsthand and experience the sacrifice of my parents and my grandparents. I was fortunate to have all 4 grandparents in the area. 2 of them, again, being in the house with me, my maternal grandparents. My paternal grandparents were maybe a mile away, roughly, or so. So not that far away, but again, all 4 grandparents available for us growing up, myself and my sisters.
Which is very rare,
Yes.
and especially nowadays.
Yes, I would say so, definitely. But the impact that my maternal grandparents in particular, again, being there in the same household for 10 years was significant, as well as certainly my parents. But just to talk about that for a bit, my grandfather, my mother's dad, literally walked just over 4 miles each way to the Youngstown Sheet and Tube. That was the one of the many steel mills that were in operation at that time. And for some 50 years, he did that. Never had a car. Never actually spoke English. He was jumped ship when he was, I think, 18 from Greece and went to Buenos Aires, Argentina, and became a master stone cutter. Subsequently came to the States, turn of the century, and anyway, worked in the steel mills in the open heart, which is probably the nastiest job you can have. The molten steel is right there in front of you, and regardless of all the layered clothing you have, you would have burns one way or another before you left each given day. Never complained. Walked each way, as I said, daily. And even during Depression time, would jump the fence to get some extra work when others would just say that they'd go home and just say, there was no work for me today. They really weren't being truthful. But to see that work ethic, and certainly impactful for me to see firsthand what he did. And then my maternal grandmother, who was all of 4'10", granddad was about 6'4", so they're kind of like Mutt and Jeff. They walked to church together 10 feet apart, you could just see them. And to watch her, again, never spoke English, neither of them educated, by the way, but common sense-wise, amazing. But to see her every day cooking, doing her thing, being a housewife and a grandmother and mother, of course. So that was pretty amazing to me as I look back on it later. And then my parents, to see their sacrifice. My father was a welder and a carpenter, born and raised here locally in Tarpon Springs, Florida.
Okay.
After World War II, became a welder and a carpenter. The jobs were up north, so he settled in Ohio, in Youngstown. And watching him from 4 in the morning to 9, 10 at night, he'd get home, 2 physical jobs, outdoors, especially in the winter, which could be pretty brutal in Ohio, northeastern Ohio in particular, snow and what have you, cold. But to just watch that work ethic, and actually had the privilege of helping him build our house. As I mentioned earlier, a few blocks removed from where I grew up. I was 11, 12 at the time, and just seeing his attention to detail, amazing. I mean, a miter box, which is about one of the few things I've been able to maintain and keep from the house once he passed, was very meaningful to me, because that little guy, which weighs good 40 pounds, 30, 40 pounds, is what he used to make real sure that the casings of a window or a door were perfect. He would always say, you don't sand anything, you don't putty anything. It's basically you, with the miter box, you make a perfect joint. That's it. Well, today, of course, things are different, and you have a lot of pre-hung doors and what have you, prefab, you name it. But the point I want to make is that his work ethic and attention to detail, perfectionism, and that can be good, it could be bad, but that got ingrained in me from a kid. So attention to detail and making sure things are like just right, I got that pretty early, and from him in particular. And being a World War II vet, that impacted me significantly too.
Do you think that that's something that subconsciously you learned from him, or do you think that that's something that he was trying to instill in you?
I think the former, possibly the latter as well, but honestly, just being imprinted by seeing and doing and following.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's wow. It was pretty much in my genome at a young age.
Well, it's obviously where you get your drive. I mean, even today you're busier than most people that are in their mid-20s. Like what you guys have going on here is incredible. So yeah, I mean, it's a testament to what you saw and what you lived and experienced growing up. Work ethic.
And he was taken out of school. His mom pulled him in the 8th, 9th grade because of depression times, and he had 5 sisters and a mentally challenged brother to help support, and therefore never really finished high school. Came back after the war, he got his GED, and then subsequently became a journeyman welder and a master carpenter. And the man was amazing with his attention to detail, common sense, loved to read. And the war stories, I didn't really talk like most vets. I think, unfortunately, World War II vets just didn't. I mean, to us, it's history. It's novel. It's a novelty to a degree, but to them, it was the real deal. And as you know, they basically, well, let's put it this way: Pearl Harbor hit, and you can forget draft. Everybody signed up. 15, 16-year-olds would forge their birth certificates to enter that war. And my dad was fortunate to survive all 5 major invasions of the Atlantic Theater. So U.S. Navy, LCI 14, he was a chief petty officer, first-class signalman on this, one of 900 and maybe 40-some ships that they made at the time for both Atlantic and Pacific theaters. And they all had numbers on them.
And this is your father now you're talking about.
Yes.
And what
yes.
age approximately?
He was 21 at the
Okay.
time. And in a nutshell, he was involved in the 5 major invasions of Europe, which very few people were involved in those, let alone to survive them. Bizerte, North Africa, Sicily, Salerno, Anzio, and D-Day, Normandy.
So your father survived all 5 of these.
He did.
Which is not only remarkable, but you think about it too, is if something would have happened to him, you and I wouldn't be sitting here right now having this conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And what was neat is I was able to take him to honor flight back in 2012, I believe it was. Grudgingly, he didn't really want to be part of it, but when I explained to him, look, do it for the grandkids, not for me or even my sisters. And so we went, and that was an amazing ordeal from 4 in the morning till 10, 11 at night. It's a government-sponsored program where the vets, that time World War II vets primarily, now with so many of them passing and so few left, it's a lot of Vietnam veterans, certainly that we should honor, absolutely, Korean War, et cetera. So we went up to Washington, D.C., and toured the White House area in buses, and then finally over to Arlington Cemetery, and then ultimately to the World War II memorial, which is amazing. That architect is absolutely over the top with how he designed that particular memorial. But in a nutshell, that whole experience to me was amazing because it put things together in that, as I said, he didn't talk much like most vets, but when I took him to Private Ryan, Saving Private Ryan, that opening scene, if you recall,
Yeah.
I mean, I was all over the floor emotionally. It was just unbelievable.
Still to this day, one of the greatest opening scenes in a...
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And he just sat there, kind of stoic, and movie's over, lights come up, and I looked at him, he looked at me, and he said, that's how it was. And I thought, oh my God, like this isn't just Tom Hanks, Hollywood and what have you. That's how it was. That's why nobody talked. But it opened him up. And from that point forward, I was able to get some video clips, fortunately, in the last year or so before he passed, because he had a photographic memory, by the way. So when he would talk, amazing detail, amazing, just absolutely blew me away. So fast forward to 2014, that was the 70th anniversary year of D-Day, June 6th, and he was to be with my wife and me. Unfortunately, he passed in March of that year. So June, we were there for the June 6th ceremonies, and in advance I'd asked for the guy that we found to just look up Juno Beach. There's 50 miles of beachhead in Normandy, divided into 5 segments. And Omaha Beach was the one that really got our boys. We lost so many of them, thousands on that given day. But Juno Beach is where my dad landed on his LCI. And and by the way, these ships were small, 24 by maybe 170, and they carried roughly 200 troops. The troops he carried over his ship that day were Canadian commandos, like our Green Beret equivalent.
Okay.
And Eisenhower, unfortunately, had to pull the trigger on June 6th. Originally, D-Day was going to be a couple, 3 days earlier, but the weather was bad. And they had a decoy to, I believe it was the west, where Hitler took the bait and thought that that's where any invasion would occur, put his major troops there. Well, what they had was they had Patton himself and then decoy tanks that were made, I believe, in UK, rubberized with 2x4s underneath. In other words, a lot of just deceit purposely. Well, Eisenhower was thinking basically, hey, look, a couple, 3 days have gone by. We can't wait too much longer. Got to pull the trigger. Unfortunately, the weather wasn't still great, and it was high tide. And I say high tide because when they landed, he said that the gangplanks go down, and we watched at least 20 of our kids drown immediately because they 80, 90 pounds of gear. And there you go, enemy fire, you name it. Well, as fate would have it, that guide was able to find a picture of my dad's boat because they all had numbers, and this was 14, and you can see it clearly. And the picture was taken from above, so probably from a destroyer, I'm guessing. But my point is, you could see 5 buildings in the background in the picture. And now I'm standing with my wife. It's 0700, June 6th, 70 years to the hour, to the minute when he landed for that invasion. And I'm looking over at the beach, and there's 2 buildings still there. So you can tripod and figure out exactly where that ship was.
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, talk about emotionalism and what have you. Wow. That was pretty tough.
So at that point, though, so this was, you said, 2014?
Correct.
Okay. So I'm thinking to myself now, when you're at a young age and you're, in high school and you're in your 20s, you really had no grasp or concept of, what your dad had gone through, but to actually be there and to see it and to smell it and to hear it, all the senses of being there at that exact same time really brought the whole thing together for you.
Overwhelming.
Wow.
Overwhelming emotions, to say the least. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I would have loved for him to have been there, to be honest. It would have been just so ideal. But he
was there.
He was there.
He was there. He was there in spirit, for sure.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So the impact, really, of knowing what he went through, and then fast forward, becoming again a welder carpenter, and watching him build our house literally without blueprints, which was another story. Hand-picking every piece of wood in that house, every single wood. I went to the lumberyard with him, and there were Douglas firs. These are big 2x12s, I believe, huge. They don't build like this anymore. Those kind of, just doesn't happen. And every nail was a galvanized screw, not a typical nail. I mean, that house was put together. To this day, I just saw it again, like I said last week, and it's standing. If a hurricane came through that place, a tornado picked something, it wouldn't matter. Mm-hmm. It would still be standing. Yeah, it was a fortress. So, again, detail, watching what he did, the impact, again, of knowing what he experienced as a youngster, and then fast forward as an adult and working those 2 physical jobs really had such a significant impact on me, along with my grandfather, and then watching the grandmother and my mother being basically all for the family. So that's what it was all about, sacrifice, complete sacrifice. So it's, they say it takes a village to raise a child. It does. So the impact of parents, grandparents, and then our church was just a few blocks away. We would be able to walk there as well. And I have 2 uncles that are now deceased, but they were Greek Orthodox priests. So growing up, very spiritual, strong spiritual base impacted my career as well, and grounded me with good, solid core values.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good.
So all the way around from home to the church, and then the school. The elementary school was walking distance as well. In our middle, and I should say grades 8 to 12 was one school. That was the high school.
Mm-hmm.
So walking distance also, and the community was small. So the impact again of parents, grandparents, teachers, priests, you name it, the whole village truly was significant for me, as I would, look back upon later and even now.
It's unique in the sense that you don't. Hearing you tell this story is great, and I think a lot of people can relate to it. But I think a lot of people are probably thinking what I'm thinking right now, and it's like, wow, it's harder to find places like that in the United States. They're starting to kind of slowly slip away, and what's starting to slip away is those core values and being able to spend time, with church and with your family, and to do these things in a smaller community versus the larger hustle and bustle of a big community or a city. It's an experience that you can recall. It's helped to shape who you are. Talk to us about what kind of student you were. So when you were in elementary school and in high school, what kind of student were you, and how did you get interested in wanting to pursue a career in dentistry?
Well, that's quite an interesting story, because as a youngster, I don't quite know why I was driven so much to. Well, I guess I do. The impact really of the parents and grandparents was such a way that education was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very big deal.
Like, it was important to them that you got good grades, and
it was everything to get a really good education, do well, and so that was ingrained in me actually by my dad in particular. So as a youngster, to me, then the ultimate thing was getting the grades. So it was important to have A's. That was self-inflicted, so to speak. So I remember beginning the 8th grade, which was again our high school. My dad came with me to the school and sat down with the guidance counselor, Mr. Monaco, and we sat there and talked about these next 5 years, how they would be, etc. And I just happened to glance at a transcript that was on the table there, and looking back on it, I believe it was probably intentional. It was that year's high school valedictorian's transcript, and all I saw was a whole slew of A's. And I looked at that and I thought, wow, that would be impressive to be able to do that. So from that point forward, I think it was just, here we go. Mm-hmm. And I got 1B in high school. I finished first in my class. I was valedictorian, and went on to be Phi Beta Kappa, summa cum laude, all that good stuff in college. I really wanted to be a physician, to be honest, a pediatric physician. And in fact,
why?
I loved kids.
Okay.
I did. And medicine to me made a lot of sense. But when I say that, that was a little bit later, because going through school, my dad thought petroleum engineering would be the best thing for his son. So that those were books that were kind of slipped to me every so often, geology and all that. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. In fact, I went to the Colorado College, for an NSF program between junior and senior year in high school, and ultimately went to school there to start.
Wow.
I would have gone to the School of Mines, which would have been a major, major mistake for sure, because that is all engineering. Mm-hmm. And that was not my bag, as I would soon find out. So I went to liberal arts school. Fast forward, after literally applying to and going to medical school, I realized pretty quickly that that wouldn't be my thing. I saw a few little ones die, and we had a preceptorship with a general surgeon, and that bothered me a lot. So took some time off from school, got a leave of absence. My dean was amazing. He let me out even for 2 years to be able to come back.
Wow.
And that's unheard of.
Yeah.
But fast forward, I decided on dentistry, honestly, like what can I do for the rest of my life? Because I felt so out of it. Like, how could this happen where, I'm so set, goal-oriented all the time, and I look at this and I go, it's not for me. So I felt like I was a failure.
When was
Really
this?
did.
What years?
Well, this goes back into what would it be, the 70s.
Okay.
Yeah. So, at any rate, to make a very short story long, if you will, I kind of got things together, and that's when you really get to know about yourself better, and you pull on your spiritual base in particular, because to fill that down, I mean, anything could happen.
Yeah.
So, had great support from my family, everybody, and dentistry just seemed like a logical alternative. It wasn't a passion or anything like that. Saw went to visit a friend of mine's dad's office, who's a dentist at the time. I thought I could do this, sure. But once in dental school, wow, everything kind of opened up. Rotations through surgery, the light bulb kind of went on. And I thought, this is very neat. Did an internship, subsequently residency in surgery. In 1983, finished up the program in Pittsburgh, came right down, set up on my own here locally. And here it is 42 years later, and I'm still at it. I enjoy my work. It's never been work. I focused on implants early, in fact, exclusively after less than 10 years of my practice. So fortunate to have some great docs around me that allowed me the opportunity to focus in this one arena. And the Institute in 1990, when I started it, really started almost like a card game with about 8 of my buddies saying, hey, Mike, can we come down and spend a few days with you and just show us everything you know, do some surgeries, etc. So I did. It was 3 solid days of, back in the day with slides, we had 2 carousels going at once in the upstairs of my Palm Harbor office. And that just morphed right into a formal teaching scenario. I was impacted by Tom Golick, an oral surgeon colleague. At that time, unfortunately, died at a young age from melanoma. But he was doing these types of courses, live surgeries, etc. I took some of those courses out in California with him, and everything just kind of came together like, this is what I want to do. And Tom Ford, another a general dentist who I teamed up with for a while there, and we taught kind of a tandem, me the surgery, his the restorative. And here it is now, 35 years later on the Institute, and I just shake my head like, what happened?
No.
Time goes by so fast.
What was it for you when you take a look at, you get into dentistry, the specific part that you love the most? What was it about that in your mind? Like, was it something, 1 or 2 things you're like, man, I love doing this the most, and this is why?
What intrigued me so much is the simple fact that I can engage with patients directly and knowing I can help them in getting instant gratification. The surgical element afforded me that pretty quickly, is what I could see.
Yeah.
And early on, orthodontic surgery was impressive to be part of, because you're changing people's lives by rearranging the jaws and what have you. So self-image changes are significant with that surgery. But now, with what we can do today, and what I've been involved with for so long, is implant-based surgical reconstruction from single tooth all the way to full arch. And the full arch, of course, since about 2009 now for me, I'll call it the last chapter that I've really been involved with and probably will be involved with. So that the impact, again, for our patients is just overwhelming. I don't think there's anything in all of implant dentistry that can impact a patient so much as our full arch implant therapy. Because literally these are folks who, for the most part, are phobic. They haven't seen a dentist in years. And when they do see any of us, they're still very concerned. But what brings them into us, honestly, is the idea that things could be done so quickly, like one procedure, which is true. And same-day teeth, which I coined that term, more than 15 years ago now, really is what it's about. In other terms, obviously, all on four, you name it, all the terms are pretty descriptors of the same basic thing. We take people who have very bad teeth, of course, that may have an option to save some of them, sure, but for the most part, they're better off with starting over, which means we can take their teeth out, we can place the implants, and we can give them permanent teeth all at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And if they have no teeth, they're even more impacted, I would say, because they're wearing dentures, and that's a very horrible thing to have to experience. I can tell you that from all these years, just the stories and what have you. So we call it terminal dentition patients that have just teeth that are just falling apart. And the other segment is someone with no teeth. What we can do in one appointment, thanks to technology. I mean, goodness, just 10, 15 years ago, what was very common would be a fair number of bone grafts, what have you, multiple procedures, cost more, take more time. Now we do in one sitting. And it's impressive. It doesn't mean we don't do any of the grafting, which is a pet peeve of mine. I coined the term all on XYZ purposely because X is the number of implants, but Y is bone grafting and Z is soft tissue grafting. We can't forget our roots. So for me, when folks talk about there being full arch surgeons, whatever that means, I kind of have to look at that and think, wow, some of these individuals are coming right out of school just doing that exclusively, bypassing the fundamentals of what we're all about is dentists first and surgeons, yes, having surgical experience with bone and soft tissue, and then finally the implant part of it. So we really need all three. But my point is, with technology we have today, what used to take us, again, a year and a half, 2 years maybe for an upper arch sinus grafting, waiting 8-9 months, place the implants, submerge them even back in the day, then uncover them, and finally the restorative, and on, with, goodness, year and a half plus easily of time.
It allows you to treat more patients. So technology has allowed us to create workflows which streamline the process of patient care. What that allows you to do as a clinician is the ability to treat more patients, right, with the right amount of time. But also this opens up a lot more, I think, free time for dentists and oral surgeons and periodontists to have maybe a little bit more flexibility in their schedule. Some people like to take on more work, more projects, more challenges, but some people like to have more time for themselves. One of the things I wanted to ask you about is work-life balance. You've been doing this for so long, and you're involved in so many things, and you've taught so many doctors along the way. What's your philosophy, and what are the principles that you live by when it comes to work-life balance? And what are some things that you enjoy doing when you escape this side of your life?
Well, that's a great question, because I can tell you that the balance factor is something that I think so many of us like to look at and say, I think I'm doing this or I'm not. I don't think there's a real description of balance, because it's a difficult one to even define. But the way I see it is, when you're at work, you need to be focused on your work. But when you're at home and with your family, you need to be focused with your family. Now, I'm not saying I've done that my entire career. I would be lying. But I've learned that over time. And if I could pass on anything to any of the younger folks listening to this at all, it would be that exactly, that the focus element is critical. And it is about quality of time, yes, but also quantity. To say one versus the other, I think, is a fallacy. To say, well, if I only spend 5-10 minutes with my child at night versus more time, but more, no. The time is important, but the focus is critical. So when you're at that ball game watching your young boy or girl with soccer or baseball or whatever, and you've got your cell phone and they see you with that, that's a problem, as I see it, because you're really not there with them. So for me, fortunately, I will say a couple things. One, had an amazing wife of now 38 years, Diane, who I will say she's a nurse anesthetist, just actually retired in April.
Congrats.
After many years of doing anesthesia, and particularly for our full arch cases the last number of years. But she, I will say this, extremely understanding to know what I dealt with early on with setting up a practice, subsequently the Institute. So it was always a juggling act, no question. Early years, I would say it wasn't home that much to speak of because it was difficult to just, again, doing all these things together. But in short time, I was able to just say, you know what, enough. I got away from all dental meetings, you name it, for about 6-7 years at least, and focused on the kids' activities, sports, school, everything. And then even into college with our son, Tony, who played baseball actually in college. So he was a very good athlete, as our daughter is as well. But being able to follow them all the way through. And I think proof of concept to this day is that they're in their 30s now and they still like to vacation with us. I think that's something to be said. There's something to be said about, doing it the right way. They're grounded spiritually, solid core values, honesty, integrity, work ethic, accountability, all of that. It's there. Because, see, they had not just us, but our parents. So talk about being blessed. Our kids had the impact of my parents and Diane's parents growing up.
The same way that you
same way.
had. So that's extremely remarkable there in itself.
The same way. So really, that helped a ton, is, again, not being around early years so much. As time went on, I had more time, yes. And even to this day now, we've got grandkids. We've got 6 of them. Our latest just over a month old now. So our son has 3 little girls.
Okay, awesome.
And our daughter has girl, boy, girl, 7, 5, and 2. So all 6 grandkids are age 7 and down to 1 month now.
And is everyone local here?
Oh, yes. Our son literally lives next door to us with his 3 little girls.
Okay.
And our daughter's only 35 minutes away. So we see them often. And really, it's been fun. I mean, what a joy to see your children's children and the dialogue that goes on, the interplay with them is just, priceless. Being single, you'd hear somebody married, and when do you get married? When do you have kids? It's so different. And okay, so then you get married, you have kids. Wow, it's fantastic. It is. Then you hear later, grandkids are the bomb. Oh, sure, okay. And let me tell you, they are.
Because you can play with them and then leave them there, and you have to.
Well, that is part of it. Yeah, I would say that's great. It is, but they're so much fun, and they say the darndest things, and they're so honest. Of course, no filters, nothing. They just tell it like it is. Mm-hmm. So that impact is just amazing to be able to know that. I should say the impact of us on them, because as I see it, we have as grandparents a solid spiritual, in particular, obligation. And what have you to close the gap, so to speak, because parents don't have all that kind of time with their own kids. We know that. But the grandparents kind of fill in the voids, and it's very neat. It is just such a neat experience. I can't begin to express in words, unless you're a grandparent, I think, to really appreciate what I'm
As a grandparent, what are some things that you enjoy doing in the community on your spare time? Are there activities or things that you guys enjoy doing outside, or places you guys go?
Oh, just being at their house, and them coming over to our house in particular. We've got
close.
We have a theater room that basically is a playroom. Mm-hmm. So it doubles up. It doubles in value in terms of what can be done there. And we've got all the toys and things all throughout the house. So when they come over, we get to spoil them. There's no doubt, and that's just a lot of fun. The parents aren't around, so it's one of those things. No sugar, Dad, and don't give them your phone. No problem. So, our daughter takes off. She's no sooner in the car, and they go to the pantry, and there's red licorice, black licorice, chocolate, everything's there. And then here's the phone, guys, the code, so no problem. We lock it and know what they, I mean, why not? Of course, they say nothing. They're
You better hope that your son and daughter don't see this episode then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's just been so much fun, though, and they're so young still that, again, they just say the neatest things. I mean, I can't begin to tell you how many comical little phrases and you name it. And, I mean, my granddaughter, Ella, who's now 7, was probably not even 4 or 4.5 years old at the time. And one day she just looked at my wife, and they call her Mum, M-U-M, because they hear our daughter call her mother Mum, Mum. And she'd reach out and just grab her tricep and go, "Why are you so swishy?" And when I wasn't there, she told me that, and I said, "What'd you tell her?" She goes, "Well, we talked about the weather real fast, and a couple other things, but
no filter.
Really,
no filter. Wow, this is a whole other side of you that people have never seen or heard of before. Like this is great. This is
the kids, the grandkids, just they light us up. They're just so much fun. I can't begin to tell you. They really are. They're bright little kids, and just a lot of fun to be with, and to be able to nurture them and see the impact that we have on them without realizing it, because you don't really know can appreciate what they're picking up. They're sponges at these young ages. Yeah. And more you read up on them, which I'm understanding better, I have more time now to be able to focus on those kind of things, to see and understand the age differences and what each in their development, what that means, and the impact that all of us have on them. Mm-hmm. Is amazing.
What do you enjoy doing when you're not working? What are some hobbies or activities, things that you personally enjoy doing, either by yourself or with your wife?
By myself, reading. I enjoy reading. Mm-hmm. I'm a lifelong learner kind of person. Everything interests me, not just my work, type-related material, but other subject areas too. So I enjoy reading. I enjoy exercising. And with my wife, basically, we just enjoy being with each other, vacationing now more. Hawaii is our favorite place, Maui in particular. We've been going there for more than 25 years. And Greece, with my background, we make a habit of being there at least once a year now. So between those two extremes, that's pretty much our vacation time, and it's becoming more and more significant for us. But just in general, being together, 38 years, I think we've grown stronger in love with each other. The bond has been just amazingly increased over time. And again, just feel so blessed to have great roots, a great spouse, and amazing kids, both of them being periodontists in our practice, by the way. That's been another blessing to have them on board with us. And again, the grandkids. So look at the whole picture.
Your whole family unit, whole family unit.
Yeah.
Like everyone's here, everyone's working together.
Yeah.
Everyone must really like each other. You know that? Because like if this was my family, after about 4 hours, I think that the tempers would be flaring. So you're doing something right. You're doing something right, which is great.
Well, there's a term that I would be remiss if I didn't share it with you that just comes to mind now. That is as a Greek young fella, and the whole culture really kind of represents, could be summed up in terms of the word philotimo. It's a tough one to translate, but philo means friend, and timo is honor, but it's really difficult to translate it directly, but for lack of a better, I would probably call it a conscious responsibility to be accountable, to honor your fellow man, to not compromise your own dignity and honor and pride. I think that's probably the best way I could explain it, but that doesn't even do it justice. It's more of a way that we're brought up, that maybe the best way to explain it would be just trying to always be helpful, always be there for those around you.
A mantra, being cognizant of it.
Yes, a real mindfulness of our fellow man, to not sound too whatever about it. I mean, honestly, it's a tough one to describe, but those of us who are raised that way, and within specifically Greek circles, can understand maybe a little bit better. But I think what I'm trying to say is that it's a cultural thing, yes, and has spiritual base to it as well. I think that's probably the best way to begin to explain it. But it's something that's just in you. And unfortunately, growing up sometimes, you think everybody's the same way. Good old handshake, you can trust people kind of thing. Well, of course, things have changed over the years, just generally speaking. And we can't rely on that so much anymore. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that the base is there, and it's a solid one. And I'm looking back on it quite, again, fortunate and blessed to have experienced all of that, and well into my adult life now. And here I am, I just turned 75 years of age. I tell everybody I'm in my fourth quarter.
75 years young.
Yep.
Wow.
And fourth quarter, I'm looking at potential overtime and maybe even some clock management.
Okay,
if you will.
all right.
Who knows? But I'm still active clinically, and I love my work. I do. I thoroughly love what I do. So I'm very active full-time still, clinically, and with the Institute. And having partnered with a great group out of Chicago, the Thurston Group. The Modus platform is what was created with me being the founding father. So just a great partnership in order to allow for the practice and the Institute to continue to grow vertically well after I'm out of the picture.
How did you get into the educational side of things? Like, where did your passion, and I guess where do you feel like you became good at coaching, developing, and teaching implant dentistry? Because it's one thing to do it, it's another thing to have the verbal and nonverbal communication skills, the know about, but more importantly, the patience and the skill set to be able to teach it and to be able to provide positive reinforcement and encouragement for people. How about start for you?
For me, honestly, Eric, I think if I had to put my finger on one point in time, and maybe even one individual that impacted me the most, that would be Tom Golick. I mentioned him earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Oral-maxillofacial surgeon from California. An amazing man. When I first met him, we felt like, I've known him forever kind of thing. It's one of those kind of people that you just bond with immediately. And I saw what he was doing. I took his courses, as I mentioned earlier. And after a couple, 3 courses, I just shook my head and thought, I want to be just like Tom. I like the fact that he's teaching us, and I mean showing everything. And that's what really hit home. Like, no holds barred. Showing the good, the bad, and the ugly. Here's complications that will happen. And here's how you deal with them. And here's how you can prevent them. And that was huge. And the light bulb really went on then. And it was from that point forward that I thought, this could be interesting, could be lots of fun. I love to learn, always have, from a little kid. And it just seemed to make sense that, implants at the time, very different, very new. In '83, I started my practice. The implant I did at that time was a staple bone plate. That's all I learned from residency. It's all was around. It was an implant that literally made an incision in the chin and drilled holes with a template. And this unit was like a horseshoe with typically 3 or 5 prongs, more or less struts that went through the bone into the mouth. And the prosthesis just sat on it. It wasn't prosthetically that great at all for our patients, constant inflammation of the gingiva, et cetera. But the implant itself, 97-8% success rate. You couldn't get it out with a crowbar. My point is that was the early start. So then fast forward over time, again, the technology being what it is, allowed me to stay focused on everything. So in the 80s, root form implants became popular from Europe, as we know, Dr. Brandemark, etc. And at that time, it was one of two camps you could be in, either Jerry Nisnik or Brandemark. And I just followed Nisnik. So in the 80s, I did screw vents, micro vents, core vents, all those implants, about 1,000 or so of them. And most of us succeeded in spite of ourselves, to be honest. We didn't really know what we were doing so much, by today's standards, certainly. But then I hooked up with a fellow by the name of Carl Misch, who really impacted me significantly in terms of how I would be teaching and what I would be teaching ultimately. He gave me a good science base for what I do today even. Mm-hmm. So that was late 80s. Yeah. So again, fast forward, and I look back and I think, Tom Golick, Carl Misch were probably the two most impactful people. But to really answer your question directly, what really cranked me up to be able to want to pass on my experiences with everybody is because I felt, and still do today, that who doesn't want to have things shown in such a way that depending on their skill set, they could do Monday morning. That's important because a lot of courses I go to, and it's tough. You sit there for several hours before something really good comes across and useful. And worse yet, you can sit through 3 days of a course and not really get that much out of it that you could take home and do. So to this day, my detailed way my brain works is I want to spell it out in such a way that it's basically like standard operating procedures. So again, I'm the product of so many people that preceded me, those two individuals in particular, and others. I can really spend a lot of time sharing names with you that had such an impact on me. But when all is said and done, I feel like I'm a facilitator, if you will. I'm an educator, yes, and I'm just passing material on like a baton. Part of me, yes, is passed on, and I think that's what's neat about being an educator is that some of you continues to grow or move forward with other clinicians and in turn their patients. So the impact really is way even more meaningful knowing that, okay, so I've trained 7,000 folks directly, et cetera, great, but how about all the patients through them that got impacted because of what I was able to share with those clinicians? And it just keeps going. So that gives me a sense of contentment.
Your footprint on implant dentistry is, to that point, massive, because you've trained 7,000 people. How many people have they gone and been able to positively affect?
And many others,
hundreds of thousands of people.
And many other clinicians through main podium talks and what have you. Those are 7,000 directly at the institute and what have you, courses and all that. But so many others. So it just keeps moving, and that's what always intrigued me about those individuals that I mentioned, Tom Golick, Carl Misch, and others, who the impact they've had on me and me in turn on others that I don't even know about. But I'll get emails, I'll get texts and what have you time to time, and Instagram, Facebook, you name it. Mike, wow. Just last week I got one that just blew me away. Don't know this individual at all from, goodness, I believe it was, Germany. Just saying, you don't know me, etc., but my God, he said, I've been following you forever. I took one of your courses long ago, or whatever, and that you said this, and it impacted me so much. And it wasn't even clinically related. See, that's what I really enjoy, because as I've gotten older, of course we get more philosophical. We have wisdom now that we didn't have in our younger years, and experience. And that combination of wisdom and experience, I love now passing on to my attendees. So I guess kind of like a bottle of wine, you kind of get a little better with age, I guess.
Yeah.
But those two elements, the experience, the wisdom, for me, make it even more enjoyable now to share my clinical experiences with my colleagues, because I can share with them things that really are typically not talked about in professional circles. And for example, just saying yes to something, you're basically saying no to your family. That's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one. No matter how you cut it, that's what happens. And the novelty of being able to lecture and go all over the place and this and that gets old. It does. And I make that very clear to the young clinicians who are up and coming and are so caught up in everything. And we can do this 24/7. We become obsessed with it. That's not a good thing.
When you think about how much technology has changed in the dental space in the last 10, 15 years, and you think about how far implant dentistry has come since the 80s, where do you see things going in the next 20 to 25 years?
Well, so much is happening now. Technology is increasing at a rapid pace. In the older years, I would say the half-life of our non-core material, core meaning anatomy, biology, things like that, aren't going to change. But everything else, the half-life, I would say, would be 3 years roughly. So in other words, 3 years from now, what I'm teaching you during my course will become obsolete and something different will be here, blah, blah, blah. Well, that changed in the last 7, 8 years or so to where now it's even less than a year.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary what's happening. So to your question, the way things are heading now with regard to genetic engineering, growth factors, different types of, the AI in particular. I mean, that's a topic in and of itself, certainly. But the way I see it, the technology will be such that we'll be able to have algorithms for almost everything possible, whether that's good or bad. But diagnostics in particular will be changing quite a bit, and probably for the better, because from a diagnostic perspective, AI can help us now radiographically immensely, where the whole field of radiology will probably be AI. I can't imagine too many individuals
happening fast,
still standing in the medical realm alone, if you think about it, because what can be diagnosed from AI is ridiculous, ridiculously accurate. Now, not 100%, but pretty close. So that's going to be something that will be continuing to change and be different for us, certainly. But just materials that we use will be so obsolete here in no time. Again, as different FDA allowances, will give us and what have you, it's just going to be so much better in terms of improvement, yes, but hopefully not at the sake and not at the sacrifice of what we're all about in terms of what we can do with our patients. That human element, because I'm all for online learning. I think it's fantastic, and the fact that we can learn 24/7 thanks to the phones, etc. That's pretty neat, but you can't take the place of that human interaction element, and that's what I would want to make real sure could be maintained as much as possible, because losing that, of course, the thought of it is just horrific. And again, I think to really emphasize the importance of courses that are live, where you have interaction with the clinician or clinicians teaching it, along with your fellow attendees, is invaluable.
Invaluable.
It's invaluable, because you exchange so many stories, personal and professional, that are what we need. Otherwise, we may as well just stay home and lock yourself up in your house and never see anybody, and that's the name of that tune. That would be obviously not a good thing.
Well, this has been a great conversation to have you on, to learn a little bit more about you and everything that has helped to kind of shape your career and the person that you are as a father and a friend. And I've got one last question for you. So you think about everything that you've done and experienced and been through personally and professionally. You think about how you want to be remembered, both personally and professionally. Some people call it what do you want your legacy to be, in a sense. I look at it more along the lines of, in And 25 years from now, if my grandchildren see a clip of me, I want them to know that I'm somebody that cared about people and did everything that I could to try to connect people, to help them along their course of life, whether it be personal or professional, to allow people a platform to tell a story. And I was pretty good as a sales guy along the way as well. When you think about how you want to be remembered, not just as a doctor and an educator, but as a man and as a father and as a friend, what would that look like for you?
It's a great question, Eric, and I do give that thought quite a bit. And in a nutshell, my answer would be as follows, and that is, and this might surprise you, my true legacy is my family. What I've accomplished professionally speaking is kind of cool. It is. It's neat. And I look back on it with a great sense of pride. I do. And I've been blessed. I truly have from that perspective, being able to still have the abilities to perform clinically, and again, most importantly, sharing it with my colleagues. But the real bottom line is my legacy, and I've said this more than a few times over these years now, and that is my true legacy is my family. Because that, when all is said and done, those are the people that really will be front row at the funeral kind of thing. And I'd like to know that the impact I had on them as a father, as a grandparent, as an uncle, etc., was meaningful.
That's awesome. That's special. Thank you for sharing that. That's what this is all about right here, because I talk about this all the time, especially going through what I've had to go through over the last 12 months, is that there's graveyards full of people out there that thought that they had more time. Our time here is short, and what we do and how we treat people, and how we model and lead by example, those things are things that along the path, like my biggest takeaway from you isn't the things that you necessarily tried to instill in your kids. They're not the same things that your parents tried to instill in you. You learned it from them. You learned it by observing them, and it's helped to shape who you are. And it's special to hear you say that that's how you want to be remembered is through your family. So it's a testament to who you are as a person. You're a great person. So thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for being on the show. This
Thank you.
Great.
I very much enjoyed our time together, and can't tell you how much it means to me, and especially knowing what you've experienced in your life. I mean, just amazing story of your own that I'm so impressed to know about, and to even get to know you better, which I want to do now moving forward, because with your story and being able to share with everyone else is huge. It's most impactful in my opinion, because again, as you mentioned, life is very short, and whether we're here 50, 60, 80, 90, 100 years, it doesn't matter. It goes by very quickly. It really does. And again, the impact that you have on other people is probably the most important thing that you can leave as a true legacy, family in particular, as we've talked about. So I appreciate, again, this time, and that you've allowed me to be part of your program.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Picos.
Thank you.
All right.
I was down, but now I'm